Hi. So happy to speak with you.
No,
So what can we expect to see this season? I am super excited about it. It's such an amazing show.
thank you. We left everybody off, all of our characters on transplant at the end of season three in pretty big turmoil, each for their own reasons. First and foremost, Bash's character has kind of completely rejigged the way he sees himself as a doctor after kind of being in the end of season three, he went overseas and he was working in a refugee camp and he kind of comes back with he's become a Canadian citizen over season three and he enters this new season with all of that on his shoulders. And also, it's the final year of his residency. And so he's not sure what the future holds for him beyond this year. And for him to have an uncertain future, this is a guy who's been through a lot, who's had his life kind of erased and several times and had to start over. And so that puts him in a really specific emotional place. And as always on transplant, kind of his Bashir's emotional state is kind of the benchmark for everybody else's. So yeah, that's kind of where we start. And another very big one on transplant is that the Mags character no pun intended, finds out in the end of season three that she is a candidate for a heart transplant. So she comes into the new season with that weighing on her mind. And everybody has kind of big turmoil ahead of them. And it's a, very emotional, affecting season as we start to get into it.
Nice. And what would you say was the biggest challenge about working on the season? Because you said there was so much going on, and like I said, season three was incredible. So tell me about a little bit about the challenges of making this season what it is.
The biggest challenge going into season four, which is both the biggest challenge and the biggest blessing, is that we knew going in that we'd be doing it as a final season. It was conceived that way, and it's an incredible blessing in this business to be able to write to an ending and not have an ending sort of imposed on you. When the show kind of runs out of steam. And in our case, we were writing to one. So that said, we wanted to make sure we use that as as dramatically and emotionally and affectingly as we could. So when we were structuring out the season, we planned big things for all of our characters, big events, and we really wanted to leave it all on the floor, as they say. So that meant some really kind of like deeply emotional stories for each of the actors to do, and for myself and the writers to kind of process. So engaging with that was the most challenging part, and also the most rewarding, but definitely the most challenging.
And talk to me about this amazing cast. What is it like to work with them, work with the writers? I mean, you have such an amazing casting crew. Tell me a little bit about working with them.
Yeah, we're very much have the whole time been blessed with an amazing cast and crew. It's all anchored by Hamza Haq, who plays Bashir, and his character is always in at least half of the show. We write roughly 60-page scripts, so he works a lot. He grounds everything through his perspective and everything emotionally. And we've been doing this, since we've been doing this 6 years, so he's been kind of carrying that on his back. And as a kind of leading man, he's been doing it incredibly well. And he sort of sets the stage for everybody else. We have, our, Aisha and Laurence and Jim Watson, who play Bash and Megs and Laurence. They are a family in and of themselves. They bounce off against each other. They like real maybe medical residents in the thick of it. And we've been really blessed by that. And not just our leads, but our guest actors who come and go from the incredible pool of actors here in Toronto and in Montreal where we film. And we've been fortunate to have the same, yeah, like you said, the same crew this whole time. Close to between 150 and 200 people on all sides of the production, making the show together. And yeah, we've been very fortunate to come through it together.
And tell me, do you have any good guest stars this season? Or if you couldn't get the ones you want, who would you have wanted to have had there been another season, or you wish you would have gotten throughout the series?
I would say that we've always drawn. I mean, we do our guest casting mostly out of Toronto, some a little bit out of Montreal, and there are some people that we've seen over the years because we there are many actors in every individual episode of our show. So and we've had the great fortune of seeing pretty much, such a huge percentage of the working actors where we make the show up here in Toronto. And I think I wouldn't want to call anybody out as to sort of as to as to hurt anybody's feelings who I don't call out. But we've had a great pool of actors come in and out, and it's constantly amazed me, how much they brought. They come in and dial it up to 11 for an emotional scene with no rehearsal, and that's been one of the great joys is getting to work with all of these actors who've graced us with their presence over the years.
And going back to the characters a little bit, which one do you think you relate to the most? Or if you don't relate to any of them, which one do you wish you related to?
I mean, I do relate to Bashir the most. Obviously, my history isn't like his history in terms of fleeing a civil war that he had to flee, but just the way that he processes the world internally, um, the way that he sees things. I I identify with the way he sees things, and so it's him, which and then I would see pieces of myself in all of them, but the other writers might feel differently about that, but definitely Bashir.
Nice. And throughout the entire series, what is your favorite scene that you did and why?
I think that my favorite scene, we've done many that I like, small ones, big ones, but if I had to name one, it would be the car crash that we do in what is essentially the first scene of our series. Bashir at the time is he's working essentially in a shawarma restaurant and he doesn't say very much. And then within maybe 40 seconds, a truck comes into this restaurant and literally the whole building collapses and he sort of ends up saving the life of a man played by John Hannah, who ends up giving him a chance as a doctor when he had maybe thought he was never going to get that chance again. And I knew that the show, if it was going to hook an audience, needed to deliver. It needed to deliver in that way, not just in the stunt and the action, but in the emotion and the performance and the writing. And when I look back at it now, which I don't do that much, but when I do, I'm still I'm still really impressed that we pulled it off in a way that brought the audience in.
Nice. And what's one topic or one thing you wish you could have done on the show that you didn't get the chance to do?
There are there are a lot. I mean, I spent a long time with doctors in the yeah. Also, yeah, there are a lot because I spent a long time researching the medical system with all sorts of incredible doctors, and they had we started before COVID and came through after. We shot during the pandemic. So maybe the one I'll say is that we made a conscious choice in season two to ignore COVID, and we didn't lean into it and tell the story of COVID as though we were happening in real time. And I'm really glad that we made that decision and that we didn't do sort of a COVID season. I think it was the right call for us at the time. But that said, there were so many stories that I was told about doctors' experiences during the pandemic that I think are so emotional and would have fit right into kind of what we were doing. That I'm both kind of again like glad that we didn't make COVID part of the story because then it would have been hard to shake it. But there were some stories there that I think we could have done great service to from a medical perspective that we didn't get the chance to.
Nice. Well, they're telling me we're almost out of time, sadly, because I could speak to you like all day because you're amazing. But I want to say congratulations. I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much for saying that, and it was really great speaking to you.
Likewise, you have a great day.
You too.